Right now, we feel completely neglected and just unseen by our government. If you want us to be louder, then come here and vote uncommitted.
Okay, that was Democrat Socialist Representative Rashida Tlaib urging Michigan Democrats to vote uncommitted in the February 27th presidential primary due to Biden administration's handling of the Israel-Hamas war.
All right, yeah, you have the protesters out in the streets calling him Genocide Joe.
They do.
And you've got the younger generation that they think it's all AI. They think it's fake news, that babies were baked in ovens and all the other nastiness that was going on there. You know, Congresswoman Tlaib, she is the highest profile Democrat yet to get behind the so-called Listen to Michigan campaign, which hopes to raise 10,000 uncommitted votes for its cause. Worth noting, 10,000 votes is around the same margin President Trump won in the swing state back in 2016. They have a huge Arab population. Hamtramck, they had the largest Arab population in the country.
Huge
there in Michigan.
Yes,
I have a lot
of
family there. Yeah.
You know, you have Tlaib there. You have Omar up in Minnesota. That is why. Joining us now to discuss, Chief Strategist at Red Pack, Charlie Colleen, and back with us here in studio, Melanie, Collette. Charlie, I'm going to start with you. What was President Biden supposed to do with this? Let Hamas attack and then not provide Israel with the proper things to combat that, to fight back here? I mean, what's Tlaib's problem?
Well, ultimately, Joe Biden should be really nervous for his reelection. He's unable to really articulate his vision and why he deserves a second term. So Rashid, she's forcing him to go further and further to the left in the primary because he can't speak for himself. We do a ton of elections in swing states. What people really care about is economic opportunity, government transparency, and none of this nonsense with supporting Hamas.
Melanie, how do you think Joe Biden's handling of the crisis in the Middle East will affect him?
Oh, I think it's going to have a negative effect on his base. I was reading earlier today that the Democrat Party is more and more identifying as liberal. So that should be scary to Joe Biden because a lot of these people seem to agree with Rashida Tlaib, no matter how misinformed they may be.
That's why I say this all the time. This is not the same Democratic Party from the 70s, 80s, and 90s that I know a lot of older demographic of the country think it used to be and what it was here. Charlie, I want to ask you about this. Young people, again, further and further left here. Biden, he's got a big problem on his hands here. What do you think happens here? I know wanting the war to stop is one thing. Getting them to not vote Democrat, that's another. Do you think that actually happens?
Well, I think Joe Biden, he has no way to reach these people in an articulate way. The more time he's spent on the campaign trail, the further he goes down with his approval rating. He's only at 38% right now. So, I mean, I know he's looking for ideas to bring young people on board, but his biggest threat with them is Kennedy. Kennedy's doing extremely well with the young people right now.
You know, Melanie, we had on before Jonathan Cott. He's the former communications director for Senator Joe Manchin. And he was saying, of course, the court cases against Trump aren't going to affect the primary. They won't affect his base. But in the general, it will. What do you think? You're a strategist. You know about all of this. Are people seeing these persecutions for what they are, that they're politically motivated?
I think there's something to that, probably not as much as people might think, because I do think independents absolutely recognize that President Trump is being railroaded here. Were he not running, all those court cases will probably go away. But I think what's going to happen is a lot of people will just stay home as a result. And as I remind people all the time, not voting is the same as a vote for whomever you really want to lose. So it's really a good idea for everybody to get out and vote.
Absolutely. Even if he kills it in the primary or anything, regardless what the polls say, go out there and vote for your candidate of choice.
Absolutely. Exactly. And to your point, Governor Hochul, she basically came out on the radio and said they railroaded Trump and no other business.
She definitely said that. Okay,
about.
so you read that the exact same way that I read it. She was like, oh, well, this was a specific circumstance. Yes, that circumstance was that it was Donald Trump and they don't want him to win the election. And that's the unique circumstance.
I bet you'll never see a case like that tried under those circumstances again.
And Charlie, real quick, in the aftermath of the judgment with Engoron ordering Trump to pay a $350 million plus fine, American truckers are organizing a boycott of the Big Apple. So when the former president heard the news, he wrote this: such an honor to have so many great patriots on the side of freedom. Joe Biden's unfair and dangerous weaponization of law enforcement is a serious threat to democracy. Make America great again. What do you think about this? Some people say, oh, they're not going to do anything. And, if the truckers don't drive into the city, then or New York, then they'll have some illegals do it instead.
Yikes.
Well, politically speaking, the truckers represent Trump's base. These are the people who elected him. These are blue-collar, hardworking Americans. And what they saw happen with this court case was not what they want to see from their government. It's not the American dream why they show up to work every day. They want to be able to make sure they can have a job, work hard, provide for their family, not have the government on their back. And this case was textbook political witch hunt. And who are the victims? I mean, there's a $350 million fine paid to the state of New York. Donald Trump paid his loans on time.
I think these are people, they don't want to see a rogue government, a rogue DOJ here. That's something we had Joe and Vic on earlier discussing about here. But we are out of time, Charlie. We appreciate you coming on as always. Melanie, stick around. You're coming back later here and still ahead.